Welcome back to another video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell button to be notified every time I post a new video. Today my client is cutting off his dreads, but he's actually reattaching them right after this cut. Now, I didn't really understand what he was doing, like what he wanted to do during the client consultation over the phone. So when he came to me and he told me he wanted to cut his dreads off to reattach them, I kind of recommended that he should have got his dreads cut off first and then came and got a cut, because the loctician could have cut his dreads off, could have washed his hair, and could have reattached it before he got a cut. But the appointments were already booked and all that, so I just decided to take him in anyway. So obviously the way I'm cutting his dreads, I had to leave basically a mini afro. So I'm not cutting too deep into the hair. I'm not gonna cut a lot of hair off. I'm literally just cutting the dreadlocks off. So at the point where the dreads lock, you see me, I'm just cutting it off so I could be able to pick it out and then give it a wash. If you're watching this and you're deciding to do a big chop, I will always recommend my clients to please get your hair done first. The haircut is always the last thing you want to do. And that goes for anyone who gets a certain style before getting their hair cut. Braids, twists, etc. Always get your hair done. And the reason he's getting it cut and reattached is because he just wanted new parts. That's really it. I think right here he had like free-form parts. I think he wanted a more unified look when it came to his locks, so that's why he's cutting his hair off. So once all the dreads are off and you've washed the hair, now it's time to blow dry it. As I'm blow drying it, I'm also picking it out. Make sure I'm getting the roots, going all the way in the roots and picking all the hair out. As you can see, this is only a rough draft. This is not what the final afro will look like. You can see there's hairs longer than the others, some hair barely hanging on, but don't worry, we're gonna fix all of that. Once the hair is completely dry and completely picked out, now it's time to shape it and trim the hair. So I grab my trimmers and I just give it a light trim. Like I said, he is reattaching his hair, so you want the afro to be as long as possible, but also even all around. So I took the trimmers and I just gave it a nice shape, cut all the loose hairs. Anything that just looked out of place, I just cut it all off. Try not to dig too deep in the afro, y'all. Please don't try to dig too deep in the afro because, like I said, this is still a reattachment dread. During this process, the pick will be your best friend. You always want to make sure the hair is standing tall as possible. So don't be scared to go back in, re-pick the hair out, make sure everything's even. Like you see I'm doing, going back and forth between the clipper and the pick. The clipper and the pick, because I want to make sure everything's even and perfect. If you're following along, just make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell button to turn on notifications so you can be notified every time I post another banger video like this. Now, when it comes to the fading part, we want to always separate the area we're fading from the rest of the hair. So if he had got his hair retwisted and reattached before the cut, the loctician would have did this part for us, but he didn't. So now we have to mark where we're gonna put the first guideline and so on and so forth. I use a 2-guard to knock the hair down in the area that I'm fading. We're doing a high taper, so meaning we're gonna start at the temple area of his head. And y'all see I went ahead and put my first guideline in, always starting at the tip of the bottom hairline part and almost going all the way to about the centerpiece of his ear, as you can see. Now we're gonna take the lever open, going up only ½ an inch from the bottom guideline. Make sure this part is neat, so make sure you go over that area a couple of times to make sure everything's one level. You may have to turn the clipper to the side and then trace that line that you just created if you had to, just to make sure everything's even. Do what you have to do. Don't be afraid to turn the clipper. Right here, I use the 1½ guard to go against the grain, knocking off the bulk at the top, just so it can make it easier to put the second guideline in with my 1 guard. The 1½ guard is gonna be the biggest guard we use to perform this haircut. The reason is I love to keep the top of my fades dark, so the consistency of the fades makes sense when it's going into the afro. I just don't like my fades too dark when going into an afro. Now we're gonna move on to the 1 guard. With the 1 guard, you're gonna go up a whole entire inch from that first guideline you made with the lever open. Go up an entire inch. Make sure you comb the hair back down to make sure that area that you want to be a 1 guard, everything is the same length. Now that line that was created between the 1 guard and the lever open, you're gonna use the 0.5 guard to just flick that line out. You don't have to dig too deep. Use the 0.5 guard with the lever halfway to flick that line out and create that nice transition that you're about to see. As you're completing this step, you can now see the fade coming together. The blend is all consistent and looking very nice. And you're basically 75% complete with the fade. Now we're gonna take the 1.5 guard with the lever halfway, and we're gonna use that guard to knock off the rest of the bulk that's at the top. And don't forget to brush the hair back down. With the 1.5 guard that we just used, we have now created one last line that we'll be using the 1 guard halfway, and we're gonna flick at that line just like we did the 0.5 guard. All we're gonna do is flick at that line to create a transition that we're looking for. Now that we're done with all the guards, we're gonna use the clipper with the lever halfway to flick at that bottom first line that we made. We're just gonna flick at that line just like we've been doing this whole entire cut, trying to create transitions. With the flick motion, you're gonna create transitions using that. So you're gonna put the lever halfway and you're gonna flick at that bottom line right before you close it all the way to take that line out completely. But with the lever halfway and with the lever closed, all you're gonna do is flick at that line to create a blurry transition. And you're gonna use those simple steps that I just gave you, and you're gonna apply it to all 3 sides. Well, remaining 2 sides now, because you already got 1 side down pat. And now right here, I'm just going ahead and putting the picture in the frame. Be very careful when you're lining someone up. I know it's pretty straightforward, but a steady hand and straight lines are all we need. We need everything symmetrical. And when lining up an afro, make sure you pick out the hair so you can see the bottommost hair that's on his neck and you're not lining up his afro. And my client did want his front tapered, so I'm just using a 1 guard and taking off no more than 1 inch of his front hairline and just knocking it down with the 1 guard. Be careful with this part. You don't want to dig too deep or too far into his front taper, because no one wants a 3-inch front taper, please. So please be very, very mindful and be very careful. Also, pick the hair out, make sure everything's all even. And now for the most exciting part, the front lineup. Although this part may be exciting and pretty straightforward, it may and can be tricky. So just pay very close attention. Take your time. Go from the center to one side, finish one side, and just match the second side so they look just alike. When it comes to me attacking the hairline, I always like to make sure my hairline is more symmetrical than anything. I know people have different hairline types, different foreheads, which causes your hairline shape to be different from others. But everyone's hairline can be symmetrical, but everyone's hairline cannot be straight. So just pay attention to the type of hairline your client has, the shape of the forehead, and just try to match it and just make everything look symmetrical and even. Although my client is getting his dreads reattached, I couldn't let him leave without getting some type of curl or sponge or style to his hair. He's gonna get his hair washed at his loctician's place anyway, so I decided to just put some mousse in his hair, sponge it up, make it look real nice so he's ready to go. And of course, line up the mustache, clean up the face, and here's the final product, guys. I hope you guys learned something today. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on my notifications, because more bangers and more tutorials just like this will be on the way. I appreciate everyone for tuning in today, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.